If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we are back. My name is Jon Wheaton, your host for this evening, and I am joined by my good partner in crime, Mr. S2, who has been busy building his new compound. So how are you tonight, brother?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Keeping busy, man.
Yep, I hear you. I hear you. And tonight we're discussing something that's at top of the news, and it's kind of being buried for good reason, but it's becoming an ever-growing scandal of Joe Biden's Autopen. And we're going to get to that because it is an important thing to follow and to understand why this is a big deal when, in all actuality, Autopens have been used for decades. But we're going to tie all of those loose ends together and give you guys some interesting information, and I think it's somewhat groundbreaking as this story develops. But before then, let's get started with the conflicted question. Make sure you stay around till the end so you can get our answers, and you can submit your own answers in the chat. So here is the conflicted question.
I got this. I do
okay, go ahead.
Question when Mike's not around.
Okay. Yep, go ahead.
Your family's been without food for quite some time now, and things are beginning to look bleak. You stumble upon a group of people who are friendly enough to barter goods with you. They have a small supply of food that they are willing to trade, but will only accept your only firearm as payment. Since this is all you have of value, how would you react in this situation, and what would you do? And we want to hear from our audience, so please put your answers in the chat, but wait till the end of the cast to do so.
Absolutely. We will revisit that at the end. So, and before we get into the terrorism threat environment, I am going to remind you guys that it's important that you guys keep up with what we're doing here at Survival Dispatch. So head on over to our Substack and sign up for a free account today. That gets you the Saturday Watch Guide, which is a list of everything that we have done through the week, including thumbnails, links, and descriptions, giving you guys the full rundown of our weekly, very packed schedule, so you guys can know what to watch and what is important. So it's the best way for you guys to help us fight big tech when their number one ways of censorship is to not give you guys notifications. And I will say my watch did ding off for a couple of things when we started the live stream tonight. So they're not censoring me, but that doesn't mean they're not doing that with other people. So make sure you go over, get on the Substack so you can be aware. And we do stream to that every day as well. So it's a good place for you guys to watch this live. Also, use code EATMEAT for 10% off on carnival.com. We make amazing food. I've done 2 different meats. I've done the beef and the chicken. Both of them have been fantastic, and I can highly recommend the quality of this food. And you just cook it up like you normally would every other style of meat you buy at the store. But this is shelf stable and preserved, so you guys can actually hold on to that as a part of your prep and have some good protein sources for those SHTF moments that we hope never comes, but very realistically could. And with that, we're going to get to the threat environment. So first up, we're going to cover the threat environment sit rep, and the current level is code red critical, which is our top level. We do this daily sit rep, which is dominated by Islamic jihadists, to draw attention to the enormous number of terrorist attacks that happen every day. And guys, honestly, I was kind of blown away when we started doing this, because it's not just 1 or 2 every once in a while. It's every day. And we see this, and we don't see the full picture. And that's what we want to give you guys. So the religion of peace has, since 9/11, there have been 8,850 in 8,850 days. We have had 47,824 terrorist attacks, and that works out to an average of about 5.4 per day. You can go to the religionofpeace.com website and see a rundown of all of that information. I'm going to actually just throw it up on the screen here real quick, so you guys can see what this website actually looks like. And it goes through the history and gives you articles and the jihad report for the week, June 5th to June 11th. 35 attacks, 139 killed, 62 injured, 1 suicide blast in 10 different countries. And this is a website that is run to give you guys a full-blown picture of what's going on. And we're going to go ahead and move into a couple of stories for June 15th. This was 5 Kurdish security forces killed by ISIS in northeast Syria, War Monitor. So, and then we've got 2 people killed by an IED in Garissa County. And the Sudan RSF kills about 300 people in North Kordofan, rights group says. So, and these are, you'll notice that some of these are not normal news sources because the news media doesn't like to actually report out on these things. So a lot of these are either localized news sources, as you can see, or something along those lines, because they don't want you to know how dangerous and how unpeaceful this religion or cult is. So with that, we must always stay vigilant. Terrorism remains geographically concentrated, with the Sahel region being now the epicenter, according to over half of the global terrorism deaths in 2023. The Islamic State and its affiliates remain the deadliest terrorist organization, according to 22 countries. And yes, that's a big issue. So always remain vigilant in these situations. Overall, terrorist attacks have become more deadly despite the fewer incidents worldwide, with 8,352 deaths in 2023, a 22% increase, and the number of attacks fell 22%. So they're becoming less frequent, but more deadly. And as they refine their skills and their abilities, they're going to just get better at these types of attacks. S2, you have anything to add to those?
Well, the current U.S. terrorism advisory level is heightened due to the ongoing Iran conflict. According to the June 22nd, 2025 DHS bulletin, threats also were going to include potential Iranian-backed cyber attacks and possible targeting of U.S. officials. The domestic terrorism is the primary concern right now, with particular focus on lone actors that are motivated by the Islamic ideology, including white supremacy, the partisan extremism, and anti-Israel sentiment. The recent attacks in Boulder, Colorado, and Washington, D.C. Have given way to concerns about anti-Semitic violence connected to the Israel-Iran conflict. And I'm not going to make a comment on that because I'm not for either side of this. I think they can both solve their own problem, and we don't need to be involved in it.
I tend to agree with you there. Yeah, it's becoming a big issue. But in any case, that is a global terrorism watch and report for you guys, so you understand what's going on. And I want to do a quick shout out. I actually didn't plan this, but close to us, there was a actual church shooting over the weekend in Kentucky. And some of the stuff that's emerging out of that shooter is that he was a pro-Palestine, anti-Jewish, anti-Christian shooter that went in to shoot up a church that his estranged wife was at. She wasn't there. He said someone had to die. The pastor's wife died, as well as one of the main elders in the church's wife, and their husbands, the pastor and the elder, were wounded. They survived. Our hearts and prayers and thoughts go out to them, as it's just a horrible thing in a place of worship to experience this kind of thing. But just a quick shout out, go over to Christian Warrior Training. Keith Graves is a very big friend of Survival Dispatch. We've done a lot of shows with him, and he's doing a lot of reporting on this. So if you're on YouTube, you can go over to his channel and subscribe. Give him a little bit of love. He does amazing reporting on these threats and attacks when they happen. He gives great intel, and he's a former LAPD SWAT cop, years and decades of experience in the world of shootings and gang activity, violence, and terrorism. So, great resource.
I'd also add that there's breaking news as of this afternoon of an active shooter in Smyrna, Tennessee, who has now barricaded himself in a liquor store. We don't know anything. We don't know anything about any more details on this as of yet.
Okay. Well, if something breaks, we can obviously talk about that real quick. But without further ado, let's go to our main topic, which is the Autopen. And I'm going to preface this with a couple of details. The Autopen itself is not a scandal. I will preface it that. Autopens have been used since early on. The type of mechanical autopen that we're talking about, the first presidents to use these were Harry Truman and Dwight Eisenhower in the late 40s, early 50s. And they were generally used for documents that weren't of official nature. They weren't bills being sworn into law or signed into law, or appointments to courts, or pardons, presidential pardons. This has not been the use of these, and it was kind of an understood, unwritten rule that you just did not use these, that presidents were actually, according to the Constitution, it says in Article 1, Section 7, if he approve a bill, he shall sign it. And the sign it language has traditionally meant personally affixing the presidential signature via a writing device. That has been understood, and no president was known to have used an Autopen to sign any kind of bill into law or an appointment to a court, especially a Supreme Court, prior to 2011, and that was Barack Obama. Barack Obama actually had them make a portable Autopen that he would carry with him to foreign countries, and he was the first one. Now, they did actually announce, they thought it was a big enough of the key bill that he actually signed as the first Autopen signature to his bill was none other than the extension of the Patriot Act in 2011. That's kind of ironic, to keep it from expiring because he was overseas. And after that, he had a portable Autopen. And we'll show you in some of the videos we're going to do what this thing actually looks like. I'm sure some of you guys have seen it, especially if you're on X. But this has ignited an argument between both the right and the left, and actually there are both on both sides. There are people that think that the Autopen should not be used by a president. I'll also point out that this is why Trump always makes a big deal out of signing everything by hand, especially, I'm not saying he hasn't used an Autopen for like just general letters and things like that, but he always makes it a very, very big deal to sign these bills by hand because of this controversy. George W. Bush's administration, the Office of Legal Counsel, actually said that the Autopen was constitutional. Now, that has not been challenged, and that is not a court ruling. That is not a federal court actually ruling on the constitutionality, and there's still a lot of a lot of critics, including Congress and legal scholars, that say this is not the intent of the constitutional in Article 1, Section 7. So, bottom line is that the Autopen is generally accepted for uses of letters and proclamations, those kinds of things, but using it for laws, appointments, and pardons is very controversial and has not been resolved. So that is kind of just setting the stage for you guys as we get into this, because the use of the Autopen is not what was necessarily the big deal. It's that we all know, and we have known since he was in office, that Joe Biden didn't know where he was 90% of the time. This is where the scandal starts.
It all goes back to his. It all goes back to his mental acuity, because in that same 2005 Department of Justice memo, it was a memo. That's all it was.
Correct.
It wasn't anything that was handed down by a judge, but basically it concluded that the president can legally direct a subordinate to use the Autopen to sign bills, and this extends to other actions like pardons. And if his mental acuity was not in place, he could be questioned on the stand right now and say, did you say that Mary Jane could use the Autopen to sign pardons? And it even also goes down to the point where the 2024 Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling further clarified that pardons don't even have to be in writing to be effective. So he could be put on the stand, and it wouldn't matter if he told somebody, one of his staffers, to use the Autopen to sign these pardons. He didn't even have to sign them for them to be effective.
Right. And also, this is where the scrutiny and the controversy comes from, is because it was just a memo. It wasn't necessarily this is not something that has been tested constitutionally. So to do the level at which he did of signing 8,000 pardons, and we'll get to that in a minute. But it's like, this is actually our first part, is this mass clemency. So we'll watch this video real quick. Probably not the whole thing, because it's about 5 minutes long, and I got some other long videos as well to show you guys. But this is from Fox News, and we'll. And Biden claims that he made every single one of the clemency decisions. Aides only signed off on them. So let's watch this. Oh.
The New York Times is reporting that former President Biden told them that he had orally granted all the pardons and commutations issued at the end of his term, meaning he did not personally sign the official warrants for clemency. Biden told the Times that he did, in fact, make every single one of the clemency decisions himself, but says that the Autopen was used to sign the warrants since there were a lot of them. Now, according to the Times, Biden called Trump and Republicans liars for saying he was incapacitated and his aides used the Autopen without his authorization. Alicia, I see you're shaking your head. Your response to this?
Well, I have so many responses to this, because we're supposed to believe this at this point. It's really hard to swallow that statement there, that he said that he made the decision on, quote, every single one, when we know from so much reporting that there was a limit to his time where people had access to him. So there were decisions that were made, quote unquote, after hours. We know that for a fact. And so to say that it was every single one, I'm going to have to see the receipts on this one, because, and this is the question before Congress right now. They're trying to figure it out. That's why we have a line of aides and staffers coming up to testify. Who knows what we'll find out, but it's an interesting statement.
David?
Okay. And yeah, this is the crux of the whole thing, is we're talking like 8,000 clemency signatures. 8,000 people. And there's wide speculation, and Ben Shapiro actually was talking about this on his podcast earlier, was that they did whole specific characteristics to like stuff like drug charges that they were doing clemency for. You're telling me that he decided on every single one when there's pretty good evidence that they actually just chose, oh, well, any drug felons that were convicted of marijuana that meet this certain type of demographic, because they didn't just do blanket for all the tens of thousands across the country, but there were certain parameters that they did grant these clemencies for. So that in and of itself means that kind of raises questions in my mind of like, you're telling me that he named every single one of those thousands of people that were offered or given these pardons. It seems fishy to me, and it smells to high heaven. S2?
Like I said, it all goes back to his mental acuity. Even if he uttered something and he's asked if he said this and he, I don't know. Yeah,
yep.
It all goes back to, did you authorize one of your staffers to do this? And then again, it also goes back to the fact that pardons don't have to be in writing. He can just say, I'm pardoning Steve Bannon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done.
Yeah.
So there doesn't have to be any official record of it.
And I think that this, where we go after this. So let's watch this quick video, because this is polling on his mental fitness, and I believe this was the polling post debate. If you guys don't remember the debate last year, after Trump was, yeah, like he couldn't remember basic things. It was so bad that was what led them to pull him out of the race, because in front of the entire nation, he literally died on stage. Like his brain stopped working, and it was not right. They knew that they could not. There was no chance. There was zero chance. They knew it was going to be so bad that they went to the person that they didn't want to at all in Kamala Harris. Like that's how bad this was. And Kamala Harris is one of the least talented politicians. She's talented in other ways because that's how she got her job. But
we don't know.
One of the least talented population. Go ahead.
We don't know that. Don't lower your standards.
I guess Willie Brown knows that. Anyways, so let's watch this video. But we all know that the mental acuity of Joseph R. Biden was severely hampered during his presidency. So that calls a lot of things into question. Let's watch this real quick.
The brilliant minds at Garden of Life.
I love advertisements. So while that's running, I'll unmute it in just a second. I love advertisements. I'm sure you all do too. But this leads us down some other paths. Here we go.
Administration official to testify before Congress about the alleged cover-up of the then president's mental health. Neera Tanden was director of the Domestic Policy Council. Senior national correspondent Rich Edson reports tonight from Capitol Hill.
Was there an effort to disguise President Biden's condition?
Absolutely not.
Neera Tanden, the former director of the Domestic Policy Council and the first Biden White House aide to appear before the House Oversight Committee in its investigation of President Biden's condition and accusations those closest to him covered it up.
I think the American people want to know. I think there's a huge level of curiosity in the press corps with respect to who was actually calling the shots in the Biden administration.
Tanden says she was glad to answer all the committee's questions for several hours behind closed doors. Chairman Comer says Tanden was forthcoming during questioning. Biden aides Anthony Bernal, Ashley Williams, and Annie Tomasini have also agreed to speak with committee staff over the next few weeks. The committee has subpoenaed Biden's physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor. Democrats say this investigation is a sham.
Republicans trying to dig up some kind of post-impeachment or whatever we're doing here is an extraordinary waste of time, and the American people expect and deserve better.
According to the latest Fox News poll, 29% of voters say the Biden White House was honest and transparent about the president's mental fitness. 68% disagree, and that includes 52% of Democrats.
So look at look at this poll here. Well, it keeps on doing this silly thing that Fox News does. 75% of independents, 81% of Republicans, and 52% of Democrats do not think that the White House was honest about his mental health and mental fitness.
Dude, when he was on stage shaking hands with his imaginary friend, that should have been the first clue.
Right. Well, and they showed the little clip of Barack Obama leading him around stage because he didn't know where to go. There have been comedians that talk about him turning into a Roomba when he gets done with a speech because he's walking around trying to figure out where he needs to exit. And full disclosure, I had a mother who passed away last December who had dementia. I recognized those things when I saw Biden moving around and doing all of it, the way that he walked, completely stiff and upright, very robotic. That's something that people that are starting to decline in their mental acuity start doing. Look it up. I mean, it's classic,
the high
classic
walk.
dementia, yes, and the instability, the not remembering where you need to go. And let's keep in mind, Joe Biden was a politician for 50 plus years. He knew the game. He knew how to do it. He had been on the national stage as vice president and as one of the prominent senators in the U.S. Senate for decades. The guy was not an amateur, and he was acting like one. And that is not normal, and it wasn't the way that he acted. You can go back 8 years prior to 2020, and he looks like a completely different person. And that's what happens when people have mental declines. So this is not something that we just, oh, well, that's silly and this is ridiculous. No, it's absolutely important for us to know, because the ramifications, guys, the reason the Republicans are actually spending time on this is because it does matter. It does matter. We need to know that the president was actually making the decisions, because if he wasn't, that opens up a whole other can of worms. So this is a clip from, they mentioned it in the last clip, that they had subpoenaed. So his doctor actually did show up to a Senate hearing and proceeded to do nothing but plead the fifth.
Dr. O'Connor, before we begin, I would like to
go
over the ground rules for this deposition. The committee will conduct today's deposition in accordance with the House of Representatives regulations for the use of deposition authority, which were furnished to your council. This regulation is incorporated into the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform at Rule 15, which was also furnished to your council. The questioning will proceed in rounds. The majority will ask questions for an hour, and then the minority will have an opportunity to ask questions for an hour if they choose. There will be one staff.
On the advice of counsel.
Here's the first question.
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
So, gentlemen, we intend to assert both privileges with regard to any questions that would be asked at this deposition. And Dr. O'Connor will not answer any questions.
Can we go off the record for 1 second?
Okay, this meeting's over.
And what's really interesting is they did continue to question, and there's some other clips. I'm not going to pull them up right now, but they weren't actually asking him to violate his patient-client privilege. The way that they were wording the questions were just simple yes or no type things, and some of them didn't have anything to do with revealing Biden's actual state or the results of his testing. And may I also add that most of these tests, most of these physicals are very public when it comes to presidents. And in all honesty, I don't think they should be swept under the rug. I think that if you decide to be president of the United States, the people who voted, especially if you're going for re-election, and there are some questions about your health, I don't think that any of this should be hidden. I think that it should be put out as a full report. I understand HIPAA, all of that stuff. I used to work for a medical company, but we're talking about the president of the United States, and that's a little bit different, in my opinion. I don't think that we should be stonewalled by a physician who was very clearly here trying to do a CYA activity, so that he doesn't have to go to jail. CYA, for those of you who don't know, is cover your ass. So, anyways,
They didn't care much about HIPAA during COVID, during Charlie 19.
Correct. That's the really amazing thing here, is that we pick and choose the rules with which we follow here, and this is a big deal. It's much bigger than what the media is letting it be, because we're talking about the importance of understanding who is pulling the levers of power. And Dano, that's absolutely correct.
I think
Barack Obama
I think you got to go back to Biden's chief of staff, Jeff Zients.
Well, that's where, yep.
He's the one who approved the Autopen use for these pardons in January. And they said it was after a meeting where Biden set the criteria, but didn't personally approve each name.
Yep. And that is, well, let me find the tab here real quick. If I can. Well, it's not important now, but the reality is we have to hold this stuff into account. So this is Comer, James Comer, from a Republican from Kentucky. He's the House Oversight Committee chairman. Has said to Sean Hannity, this is Breitbart, there is no evidence from his committee investigation that Joe Biden was involved in the use of the Autopen for signing presidential documents. The Kentucky Republican insisted that the investigation would proceed. We interviewed every person that worked very closely with Joe Biden, and I will say this: Joe Biden apparently wasn't the only person that had a poor memory in the Biden administration. Our witness today couldn't recall anything, just like our witness earlier a couple of days ago, Dr. O'Connor. He pled the fifth. So what we have found thus far is nobody that even the ones that who we thought were in the inner circle of the Biden White House ever saw Joe Biden. But according to the reports, Joe Biden was in the White House. This doesn't make any sense. And it adds fuel to the fire that there was a select few. And when I say a select few, Jason, I am talking about, I can count them on one hand. So if we are speculating on that select few, we're talking about Zients, we're talking about Jill Biden, we're talking about Hunter Biden, and who else would there be, S2?
His brother.
His brother. So all of these people that are tied up in these scandals with China are all of a sudden the key components of having this.
And that's since 2004. That's since 2004. You can't retroactively go back and do stuff like that.
Correct.
Or into the future. I mean, what was the pardon for? It covered 14 years.
Correct.
So
and that was
So that meant anything retroactive and anything going forward. That's pre-crime, man.
Yep, exactly. Well, that's a very specific thing, because that the timeline actually adds up to the point where he started enriching himself by sending his son across the world, his coke addicted son, to grab bags of cash, to sit on boards of energy companies that he had no experience to be on, to take trips with his dad to China and work within the government officials to get money out of China. This is pretty well documented stuff from people that were actually involved. I forget the guy's name, but there was a guy that had all the emails. Remember, that was the big guy. That was where the big guy came from. I forget the guy's name, but Tucker Carlson broke the story.
Marco Polo.
Marco Polo. Yes. So let's watch a little bit of this.
That's the website. Seriously.
Really? Okay. I forget the actual guy's name that was their business partner, and he broke the story.
Tony Bobulinski.
Bobulinski. That's right. Yep. Good memory there. So let's watch this video real quick. It kind of lays out a good chunk of this. This is Jesse Waters on Fox News. We won't watch the whole thing, probably the first few minutes.
The White House is under investigation, and Trump's got a new nickname for the big guy. He's now called the Autopen. Bondi and her team are investigating whether Biden was competent and whether others were taking advantage of him. Did the Autopen know what it was signing? The Autopen signed 8,000 pardons. But did Joe know? Was the pen going behind Joe's back and letting Hunter sign with it? Did Dr. Jill use the pen? Did donors? We're not sure. But we're finally going to get answers.
When you look at these last-minute Biden pardons, the big ones, Biden siblings, Fauci, January 6th committee.
That's right.
Most of the big ones have the same very neat signature. We would expect that probably to be the Autopen. Is this White House of the opinion that the only pardon that would count is one that the president signed himself?
The president is making a good point when he discusses the usage of the Autopen. Who was running the country for the past 4 years? Perhaps those documents were signed with the Autopen. As you saw, Ed Martin made an announcement at the Department of Justice this morning to launch an investigation because the American people deserve answers.
Donald Trump had his hand an inch from the Bible, about to be sworn in a second time. And the Autopen was on a pardon bender. The Heritage Foundation did their own investigation. Quote, "We gathered every document we could find with Biden's signature over the course of his presidency. All used the same Autopen signature, except for the announcement that the former president was dropping out of the race last year."
Why?
He was doing what he said he was going to do when he was running for president. He said, point blank, in an interview on Fox News, well, I might get sick and I might have to have Kamala step in. This has been planned from day one.
Yeah, he said I might be a transitional president. Here's the real thing, and I'll show you. This is essentially what his signature normally looks like, and you can see this is my mother. I use her as an example, obviously for specific reasons. But as she got older and her dementia started to get worse, her handwriting got way worse to where at the end you couldn't even really tell it was her signature. And we had to get power of attorney so that we could sign for her. So that is the reality of this. And this looks like a very sloppy handwritten signature. Unlike the ones that you just saw on that video. And this is why, and it's very interesting. So Heritage Foundation did pull all documents that they could find, and these should be archived documents. We should be able to see them. During the course of his presidency, all were signed by the Autopen except for the one where he was dropping out of the race. And I think that is somewhat of a signal that they understood that had to be actually physically signed by him, because he could always come back and say, and I don't think it would have been him. I think it would have been Jill Biden, because she was very much drunk with the power. You could see it. And I think that if there was going to be any kind of issue, they could say, well, they did that with the Autopen, and there opens up a whole nother scandal. Democrats aren't dumb when it comes to this kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's very interesting that the only one that they found that looked like it was actually signed by him was his withdrawal from the presidential race. To me, that speaks somewhat of volumes there.
Yeah, I think somebody needs in Congress, if we can find a Congress critter that's willing to step up and actually get it done, they need to put some legislation in place stating if you're going to use the Autopen, it can only be used for non-critical things, period.
Correct. Yeah.
Can't do pardons, can't do bills, can't do extensions of National Defense Act or any of that crap.
Yep. So this is MJ Truth Ultra talking about this. The Constitution, Article 1, Section 7, as I actually mentioned earlier, this outlines a legislative process stating that the bill comes to law if the president approves and he shall sign it. If he does, it will return with. If he does, or it will return with objections, vetoes. If he doesn't, the phrase "shall sign it" is the key. Does this imply a personal physical act? Article 2, Section 1, the president's executive power is vested in him. This suggests that certain acts, like approving laws, are his alone to perform, raising questions about delegating that act to a machine. The Constitution assumes that the president's conscious individual asset to the law. An Autopen, even if authorized, is a mechanical proxy. Some argue it's akin to delegating the decision itself with the president, which the president can't legally do. The framers envisioned a hands-on executive role. In 1787, signing meant pen to paper by the person in question. No machines existed to complicate this. An Autopen might clash with the original understanding. Legal authenticity. A signature traditionally proves intent and identity. If a machine replicates it, could someone later challenge the law's validity by claiming that the president didn't truly sign it, like Trump is doing now? So this is some key points to be brought up constitutionally here that we don't have answers to, in full disclosure. So S2, your thoughts?
Let's go down a little rabbit hole here. We're talking about machines. Let's talk about AI agents. What if AI agents could go out there and just willy-nilly impersonate an official and sign their signature to something because that is an accepted form of legal representation now through things like DocuSign and Adobe Acrobat, things like that. So you have electronic signatures that are in play right now. And if we start looking at what AI is capable of doing, this is a dangerous thing.
Absolutely. Now, I will say, we purchased our house in 2019 and we did digital signatures on everything except for the closing. And the closing, you actually have to meet in person. It is still a requirement to go in, and maybe that's changed since 2019. That's the last time I bought a house. But you can do digital signatures on like the inspections and all of the processes that go into buying the house. When you actually go to the final signatures of that home, you are required to physically sign, and it's a whole stack of documents that you're supposed to sign. Those are then scanned in and kept as records. So digital signatures do work to certain things, but when it comes to things like home loans, they still require, at least to my knowledge so far, and I could be wrong, and if we have someone that's a real estate person in the stream tonight, they could maybe set me straight, but my experience in buying 2 or 3 homes has been that when it comes to that finalization, that closing, the signatures have to be physically put on the paper. And even loan companies will send you a packet to sign and mail back to them for larger.
You still have to be physically present to do that kind of stuff. It's called KYC, Know Your Customer. All banks use it. It's a standard that's been around for quite some time. Anybody could, if they used digital signatures for those types of things, then anybody could sign those. And really, nowadays, what people talk about with people stealing people's houses, they actually do that. They sign your name to a legal document. So it's not infallible.
Correct. And so this opens up a lot of questions that people deal with. Yeah, and Doherty, you bring up a point. Yeah, and in some cases you can sign for a loved one and those kind of things, but still physically sign. So that is a requirement. So it's this opens up so many rabbit holes, and AI is that's a great thought there, S2, because AI could really screw up a lot of this stuff. And I think this actually opens up even a question of like, do we really want the president of the United States using this kind of a thing for stuff that impacts our lives and allowing other top aides and things like that to just do this work willy-nilly? My personal thought is no. I want the president to actually physically sign these documents, because he's the one that's saying, yes, I agree with this. I do this. I'm going to sign it. So this is a very, very very big topic for us to discuss and to think. How do we want our government to run? Do we want all of these people surrounding the president to be doing these tasks? And in the case of Joe Biden, where his mental acuity is in question for the entire time. I mean, we could go back to him campaigning during Charlie 19. We could go back and remember he was still showing signs way back then. It was only when it got so bad that they couldn't cover it up or laugh it off that they actually turned on him, and that was after the debate in 2024. So this had been going on for anybody that had eyes and had ever seen anybody acting with dementia, how they act. I mean, you can spot it. You can see it. Back in 2019, the guy was not mentally all there. And it got way worse when the pressure of the presidency was put on his shoulders, as does happen with people with dementia. But Biden tells the New York Times he did not individually approve the names of many of the pardoned via Autopen. So this is what I was talking about earlier, where there were just criterias that were given to his aides, and they signed off on that. So he admitted he did not individually approve names of many pardoned via the Autopen. And that's kind of crazy, because it's basically just, here's another big one. Libs of TikTok. Daily reminder that the DEI hire at the was appointed by an Autopen. They did confirm that. And she's honestly, she's such a bad justice that even the liberal justices are calling her an idiot. Look it up. Over the last 2-3 weeks, Sotomayor and Kagan have both literally blasted her for some of her dissenting opinions on some of these rulings from SCOTUS. Terrible, terrible pick here. And, if we start calling these things, if these things start getting called into question, what is the answer here? S2, you have any thoughts?
Null and void.
Yeah. I think really what's going to be the telling thing here is if they call Biden to the stand, or they try and have a mental acuity test done to him, because the reality is they can do this and they can tell what stage of dementia you're in. And I think there's 4 stages, maybe 5. I don't remember exactly. But with 4 stages of dementia, those don't happen in a quick succession. It's a gradual decline, and it usually takes, it's like Parkinson's. It usually takes over a decade for it to actually happen.
It starts out slow and then it accelerates.
Yes. And at the end, it will, when you get to stage 3 into stage 4, then it really, really accelerates. And I think that's what we saw. Maybe he was in stage 3 in the campaigning, and then when he got into office, he was clearly in stage 4. But it does happen. And the other thing I will say is there are moments where there are steep declines that are very oh, wow. So that's kind of the progression, is it's kind of steady decline and then a big drop. And then that's kind of your new baseline. So, and this is all just my personal experience with it, having had my mother and a couple of other family members go through dementia. But it's
kind of like falling off your bike.
Yeah. that's very, very timely there. Good one. Nolte, this Trump orders probe into Biden's staff abuse of the Autopen. So President Trump directed counsel to the president to look into whether certain individuals conspired to deceive the public about Biden's mental state and unconstitutional exercise of the authorities and responsibilities of the president. So there are probes, and I know the Congress has one, the DOJ has one, Trump ordered one. This is all very, very big stuff. So, yeah. And here's another one. I'm not going to play the video because we're running close on time. Dr. Anthony, what's that?
I was going to say, how about this one? So they were also alleging that Elizabeth Warren had access to Biden's Autopen as well.
I have heard this many a times.
And she had dementia too.
Yeah. Elizabeth Warren's such an interesting political figure because back in like 25, 30 years ago, she wrote a book that would be considered anti-feminist now called The Two-Income Trap when she was actually a professor at Harvard University. Ben Shapiro actually was one of her students at one point. And she was very much against both mother and father working outside the home at that time. It's just weird, man. Like really, really weird. But here's an interesting little tidbit. Our favorite doctor, Anthony Fauci, only slightly outdone by Joseph Mengele, pardon was approved at 10:30 p.m. by Biden's White House Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, using the president's Autopen signature. In other words, there was collusion, there was a conspiracy, and there was an election interference likes of which humanity has never seen before. Democratic Communist Party colluded with the Chinese Communist Party and overthrew the United States government during the November 3rd, 2020 election. We all have definitely felt this way. And would we put it, so here's probably the big question. I'm going to ask this of you, S2, based off of what we know about what can be done and will be done with power given to the Democrats, how they do not view the Constitution as a real document. They don't think they have to operate within it. Given all of that history that we have numerous amounts of. And a side note, I just started looking into a lot of the stuff around Joe McCarthy back in the 1950s and 60s. Boy, you talk about or the 40s and 50s. You talk about a can of worms that shows you that this corruption in the Democratic Party has been going on for freaking decades.
It's been going on since the end of the Civil War.
Correct. And I'm going to be bringing you guys, spoiler alert, on a whole episode devoted to why I actually think Joseph McCarthy, when you look at historically unsealed documents, was absolutely right and is vindicated for the quote-unquote witch hunt in the 1940s and 50s of communists. That's going to be a very interesting episode coming in a couple of weeks, but there's a lot of research behind that. Anyways, but the Democratic Party has a history of abusing power when they get in office. That's why they get voted out very quickly. That's why Obama lost so many House seats and so many governorships and state House seats because his policies were so unpopular, but they still push forward. Given all of that history, do we really think that this is beyond the pale for them when they're in power? S2?
This is probably the most overt act I have ever seen from the Democrat Party in overthrowing this government. This is the most overt act I have ever seen outside of electing Obama.
Yeah.
And the things that he did. But even the things that he did are overshadowed by the things that were done by, I'm not even going to say Biden or any of his cabinet, because they were all inactive. They really weren't doing anything. It was the deep state that was doing everything. It was the administrative state that was doing all of this and using their influence to achieve an end goal, and they failed.
Yeah.
They've lost the culture war, they've lost the political war, and now all they're trying to do is to back out while trying to save face at the same time. And I think what that's going to end up doing is it's going to end up destroying what's left of the Democrat Party, which frankly I would not shed any tears over, because at the inception of our country, we were never a two-party country in the first place.
Correct. And the fact that so much power has been given to two parties is disgusting, and it was never the intent, because when you actually, it's kind of like the whole idea that Musk is campaigning on this new America party. Well, guess what? There's not enough money to start another party, because the two parties that exist have so much money and so much power that it's almost impossible to get a third party going. And I don't necessarily even want a third party, because I don't want us to turn into a parliamentary style system where, you know, you win 20% of the vote and you win the election. It's a system
that's where you start talking about ranked choice voting. And
correct.
That's where that leads to, which is another disaster.
Yep. Look at Alaska. If you want to look at ranked choice voting, they have ranked choice voting in Alaska. And in a very red state, Democrats win because of ranked choice voting, because there's so much fighting over on the Republican side that the Democrat just cruises.
Yeah,
it happens.
They dilute the vote.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happens with all of the parties.
Same thing is actually happening in New York, and we'll get to this communist. The guy running for New York mayor, New York City mayor. The primaries, there was only like a turnout of 25%, and he won handily, beating Andrew Cuomo. The problem is there are enough old school Democrats and still some Republicans and independents in New York that if somebody like Andrew Cuomo actually went and was the only independent, he would beat this I forget his last name. Mamdani. Yes, he would defeat him fairly easily. The problem is you have so many Democrats that have now switched over to independents, and so it's diluting down to where he can win with his 35%.
The bigger problem that you have is that you have the Democrat Socialist Party that have actually been going out, and they've had an army of about 30,000 people in that region that have been going out and canvassing for this Mamdani guy. And, you know, communism is all fun and well until you run out of other people's money. And
correct.
I'm telling you, he's going to drive that place into the ground. That's why I'm very happy to see Curtis Sliwa step up.
Yeah, so we this is going to be a problem in these, because as this country continues to balkanize, we are very balkanized to the point where, you know, I mean, my days in Illinois may be numbered, and I love the area that I live in. It's one of the reddest areas in the state, unless we somehow work a deal out to become part of Indiana or Kentucky. There's a real chance that I may be looking to make my exit in the coming years, because I don't want to live in a state where I could literally be charged and jailed because I exercise my Second Amendment rights in a way that the fat governor up north doesn't like. And I'm a veteran. I was honorably discharged from the military. I had a top secret security clearance. I am not a threat to my fellow man. I am a threat to a power-hungry government, though, because I am a free-thinking individual. And that's what you're going to find out in these blue states, is that they're going to continue to get bluer. They're going to get more and more communist, as we're already seeing with New York. And I think that, as S2 was talking about earlier, this could be the end of the Democratic Party. Yes, I think what the Democratic Party is going to morph into is really a communist party, because that's the direction they're going.
Well, I'm gonna also say something about that too. Democrats are not communists. Okay, these are two totally separate things. You may have a few of them that are socialists, but they're not communists. So we have to get that straight ahead of time. We could do a whole show about all of this, but they're not the same thing.
Yep. So the reality is, and where we are right now as we close down, this is a scandal that, as it continues to develop, will obviously bring you guys updates. But it is something that we should be focused on, because the media is not going to focus on it, because there's too many ramifications for if this is actually proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. And as we said in the last couple of episodes, it doesn't matter what you did, it matters what you can prove. There's a lot of evidence here. And if there is some things that can be proved, this could lead to some very, very big things. Very, very big recensions and undoings of some very unpopular things. It's a big thing. And I think everybody that is attuned to this kind of knows that. So what should we do? We should stay informed, obviously. We should be a part of informing more and more people about this and why it matters. That it's not just a matter of like, oh, presidents have used Autopens for decades. It's just a normal thing. But we have to ask the question, should it be? And do we trust that that some corrupt people within an administration where a president has mental acuity issues couldn't capitalize on that? Because those are the questions that are going to end up driving this thing and making it the big scandal that I think it is. As to anything that you want to add before we close down?
This is ultimately going to end up in the Supreme Court.
Correct. I think so. Yep, I think so as well. So there will be legal battles, and this may take a couple of years, in all honesty, but we can't keep our eyes off the ball. We have to make sure that we do this and keep informed. All right.
This is a test. This is one of the trials and the tribulations. It's straight out of the Bible.
Yep. So, and I want to give a special thanks to Roger Moore for submitting yesterday's top story. U.S. Navy rushes to fuel USS Abraham Lincoln for urgent Pacific deployment. Could this have something to do with China? This is one of our aircraft carrier groups. The Abraham Lincoln is one of our very large nuclear aircraft carriers, and the rush to move it out to sea is a big thing to keep in mind. So thank you, Roger, for that inclusion there. I'll show you this real quick. It's on Naval News. So urgent Pacific deployment. So that always raises eyebrows for sure. So now we're going to get to and return to our conflicted question. So S2, why don't you go ahead and read it? And then I want to see everyone's responses on what they would do in this specific situation. Take it away, S2.
Your family has been without food for quite some time now, and things are beginning to look bleak. You stumble upon a group of people who are friendly enough to barter goods with you. They have a small supply of food that they are willing to trade, but will only accept your only firearm as payment. Since this is all you have of value, how would you react in this situation, and what would you do?
I'm going to quote semi-quote John McClane. Now I have a gun. Ho, ho, ho. No, I'm not giving up a gun. Just not going to do it. That's my only means of protection. If I get desperate enough, I can steal food or take food from people. So it's a bargaining chip, but no, I'll keep my means of protection. That's pretty much my answer. S2?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I could go shoot something with it that I could eat. There's no reason for me to give up that gun. Have a nice day, guys. Good knowing you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so no way. Never give up your guns, even in a situation where you're starving. Yep, 100%, Bruno. Okay,
just make sure you
love
have bullets to go with it before you make that decision.
Right. Yep. Yeah, if it's a gun with no bullets, then maybe I might consider it. But once they have the gun, are they going to give you the food? Probably not.
Do you want my High Point 380? Sure. There you go.
Right. Oh, anyways, but as a general rule of thumb, never give up your guns. So In any case, all right, guys, that does it for us tonight. Don't forget to go over to Substack and sign up for a free account to get that Saturday Watch Guide. It lists everything we publish throughout the week, all of our content. Chris tomorrow is going to have Jeff, Randy, JJ Carroll, and Jeff Nicholas, my good pal and former Night Stalker. And that's going to be at the usual time. They're going to be covering the mass deportation, an enormous increase on hands-on policing that's already unfolding. A lot of things going on, and it's a really, really big deal. So, as always, I'm going to close this out in prayer, and then we are going to sign off. So if you guys would bow your heads, close your eyes, and we're going to go ahead and pray. Lord, I thank you that you're a God of justice, that you're a God of setting things right. And I pray, Lord, in this situation that you do this, that you expose the truth, that you expose the corruption that looks as if it happened. Lord, I pray that you make this so clear that that it cannot be hidden, it cannot be reasoned away. I pray that you reveal as only you can. I pray that the investigators, that you guide them in the right direction, that you you cause the people that are trying to cover this up to make mistakes, to not get all of the breadcrumbs. I know that you are capable of doing this, and we give you all the glory in advance. In Jesus' name, amen. Guys, thank you so much for coming on tonight with us and being on the stream. I greatly appreciate it. Wanted to apologize to everybody. I made a boo-boo on Sunday's stream. It was actually a pre-record, and I broke a YouTube rule that got us banned. So if you actually wanted to see that episode, it's over on our Rumble channel. They did not take it down. We almost actually got a channel deleted because of that. It was completely honest mistake on my part, but we were able to salvage that. It appears that YouTube has some rules about guns that are ridiculous and silly, but it is what it is. But in any case, no harm done. But
Guns are bad. Guns are bad.
Yeah, the guns are bad. Guns are bad. It is such an ironic thing that they have two different sets of rules for whatever kind of medium you're using. Anyways, really appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe, like, share, and comment on this. We'll see you guys soon. Until then, stay vigilant, stay prepared, and God bless America.
Hoorah.
There's a place on the health where you're going. Over to the top and say goodbye. Why? Democrats and Republicans going. Obama's legacy we leave behind. Justice around the bend. Exposing just our head. Got your kids and your pre and your parents. On your banners of family. Watermelon head and this chain. So we love bring out your Laura Milley. Come on, protect your friends. Just without your Autopen. We can't run, we can't hide from that Martin. He will bomb every morning train. Stand back for parties and commutations. Within the channel will pay for sale. Put on some new pants and fire up the Autopen. You're busted. You're so busted.